The best thing that would ever happen to your child or to anyone is to study overseas. And it can also be a nightmare. So when these kids arrive here, you need to get a mentor ASAP.
It's better for your child to be there with you than for you to send your child to Canada, then 2-3 years later, you're hearing a different story entirely.
As parents, you need to work towards finding the balance for each child, because you can have 3 children and their traits and characteristics their features are different. So you need to know the child that you have and find the balance.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode on Talk with Mo. Many of us have recently seen some videos of Nigerian students, international students that made the round. An example is a video of Simi and another one is of Peter. I am sure that there are several others going around there, but these 2 videos have really rattled the Nigerian communities in Canada. So much so that many are scratching their heads as to what to do, because these 2 cases are not just isolated. There are several of them, many students in different universities or higher colleges, education colleges across Canada in various provinces. The situation in Ontario is not peculiar to the students in Ontario. It is a generic one that many students are going through. We have an expert who deals with these students, recruits them, and is involved with their day-to-day activities and can really speak to this. So we're grateful to have David Thompson with us. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi everyone, my name is David Thompson. I work with Mohawk College in Hamilton, Canada. I'm the regional market manager for Africa student. I recruit students.
Africa, that's huge.
Yes.
Okay.
I recruit students from Africa to come study in Canada, and I also manage our agent partners. And from admission process up until visa, I don't do visa, but I will guide them all the way up until their arrival in Canada. That's basically what I do. And help them to settle down as much as they can.
In Canada, once they arrive?
Yes.
So you are more like a contact person from Nigeria or other African countries, and also when they get here?
Yes, correct.
I need to introduce my other guests on the show. I think it's important we get the perspective of people from the public view who see these students, who interact with them and are able to speak to their perspective of that. So I'm so glad that we have Moyo and Bunmi here today. So thank you for coming, both of you. And this is something that has really rattled the Nigerian communities. Before we delve into asking all these questions, and I'm sure you have questions yourself that you wanting to ask Mr. David, what are your thoughts on this topic? I'll start with Moyo first and then Bunmi.
Thanks for having us. It's really concerning when we see our young adults, our youths, even some minors, travel overseas from Nigeria, and they eat these obstacles, these hurdles that is beyond them. And it's normal for it to be beyond them, because the truth is that even as an immigrant myself, it's not easy.
As an adult?
Yes, as an adult, it's not easy relocating and traveling so far from home, not really having the support that you're used to from back home. And if it's not easy on myself as an adult, it's going to be worse off for the young adults and the youths. And there's a lot of culture shock, aside from the weather being totally different from what it is back home. There's a seasonal depression that we don't talk about enough. as Black people, the vitamin D deficiency that we don't get during winter that affects our moods. Even mental health, in Nigeria, we're not taking mental health as seriously as we should, or we're not talking about it as much as we should. We're happy people. We tend to watch movies and make fun of everything to make ourselves happy. But we have that community back home. It's different here. Sometimes some places are so far from another place, even within Ontario. Everyone is isolated sometimes. So I just feel like people have to take things more seriously. The adults that are sending these young adults here need to take more charge and do more in respect of their words that are coming abroad.
And we're going to explore that. You use this phrase, young adults. Bunmi, are these students, are they actually young adults? Because some of them might actually be teenagers.
17, 18, 16. Yeah. So
are they ready?
And that's a very valid question. Are they ready? And sometimes I would say no. I would say no because from where we're coming from, Nigeria, most times we have a lot of support. You have the nannies, you have the cooks, you have the drivers, you have the people that will do the washing and the ironing. And those kids are just, they are there. They have people at their beck and call that would do everything for them. Now you're sending them to a strange country, suddenly kids that are in the age of, 16, 17, 18, and they're expected to do all these things themselves suddenly. I would say no, they might not be ready. So coming from the angle of parents, are you sure your kids are ready for this big change? Because you're not just talking about academic excellence here. We're talking about social, we're talking about financial. We've heard of cases where parents would do all they can and pay their first fee, and after that, they expect the child to work and pay their fees. Like, how? You're not in Canada, so you don't even understand what it takes to get a job. You don't understand how long this child is able to work every week. You don't understand the school system. Because the truth is the school system is different from what we are used to in Nigeria. We do exams, sometimes we do maybe 1 or 2 tests or quizzes, and that's it. I went to school in Canada, so I can tell you that my first experience as an adult student, I would cry. I would cry because it was overwhelming for me as an adult. So imagine a 17, 18, 19 years old having to do quizzes almost every week, have to do team assignments and presentations. These are things that we're not used to back home. Then added on it to expect this child to get a job and be able to pay for their fees and pay for their accommodation. Like how? These are the issues that we're talking about.
Mr. David, what is the recruitment process like? Is there some sort of training that goes on to say, okay, sieving, when you say, okay, this one, yes, you can afford it, you are academically sound, but from what we're seeing, we don't think that mentally or even socially you can integrate. Is there a cutoff age for Mohawk College, for example?
For Mohawk College, we admit students from 18 and above. And I think what the challenge probably are, those kids, they are not well tutored about the weather in Canada, the environment they are traveling into, and the system itself. So the cultural difference brings them into that cultural shock. That's the beginning of the challenge for students coming to study in Canada.
So I just want to put myself in the position of a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old in Nigeria. I've just finished high school. All my friends are waiting for JAM. And my parents come to say, good news, you're going to a university or college in Nigeria. Now, my parents, they've watched me grow. They know that socially I might not be ready. But they're not thinking that, because suddenly I am excited. The whole neighborhood hears, I am going to Canada, going to school in Canada. Now, how do we balance this wanting to please the children versus really being the parent? Because that's what it comes down to, right? Bunmi, I'm going to take that question back to you, because you were on to the fact that these kids might not be ready. So I'm taking that question back to you. How do we balance it?
So what I would say is, I think the first thing is know your child. Know your child's personality. You have different personalities, and no two children are the same, even if they are of the same parent. There are some kids that are very easily influenced. There are some kids that are very strong-minded, and they can, stand on their own and take decisions, and they're not affected by peer pressures and, people around them. So know your child. Now, if you really, because it's probably an average parent's desire to see their kids succeed and send them outside the country to go to university and see them become great men and women in the future. Now, if that is what you want for your child, then you have to do that extra work. You have to be there for the child. If you're able to come to Canada, make sure I know parents that their kids are here in Canada. I know parents that actually left everything in Nigeria and relocated with their kids just because their kids are in school. I know parents that every summer they would come to Canada and make sure that they stay all through summer with their children. Now, financial situations differ, so everybody might not be able to afford that. So it's you knowing what exactly you need to do to help your child. If you know your child is a little bit weakened when it comes to having to take decisions and having to be able to do things on their own, then you actually have to put an extra effort being there for the child. Look for a mentor in the city where the child is. And there's nothing wrong in saying no if you still believe that the child is not ready. It's better for your child to be there with you than for you to send your child to Canada, then 2-3 years later, you're hearing a different story entirely. So I would say know your child. I think that's a very, very important factor to consider when you're bringing children to places like Canada.
Know your child might seem like a cliche, but it's actually very deep when you think about it in the Nigerian context. People go to work. All they have, for most people, are house helps and drivers. So how do they know their children? So Mr. David, at the point when you're recruiting, has there ever been a time when you're recruiting these kids and you are seeing that, these kids are not ready, or these specific kids are not ready? Are there red flags, I will call them, that you see that you can point us to so that parents listening can say, these are things I should be taking into consideration?
Honestly, it's very hard to discover who those kids are before they leave Africa. And I would say to parents listening, the best thing that would ever happen to your child or to anyone is to study overseas. And it can also be a nightmare. So when these kids arrive here, like Sister Bunmi said here now, you need to get a mentor ASAP. Follow them up bumper to bumper, because we assess the paperwork, the academic, the WIC, the NECO,
so it's just academic and the papers,
the transcript they submitted. That's what we assess them based on. to admit them in here. And upon arrival is when we now see what they have to offer. But then sometimes it's always too late. And sometimes it's always the best thing for a parent to do is to hand them over to mentor and follow them bumper to bumper, because when they arrive in Canada, they seems to become a mini god. They seems to become, or they know more than the parents now.
The students.
Yes, they seems to be like, oh, I am free. I've been kept in the house for years. Now I am free. So that's why a parent needs to follow them bumper to bumper.
That is a hard one. Because if kids are feeling like they've arrived and they're now big adults, how do people here follow them bumper to bumper? Everybody is really busy, right? So what effect do you think the society, a new society, has on the mental health of these students, Moyo? I know that you're not a mental health specialist, but you see a lot of them. And I know we can speak generally, but what effect do you think mentally this society or community would have on these kids?
So like my co-speakers have said now, like getting a mentor, getting a guardian, those are things that would guide, those are people that will guide a young adult, a child, even an adult, a full-grown adult. Like we said, you know, I also went through the adult education doing a diploma here, and it was not easy. In my class, many people dropped out. And these are people that have their families around. They're able to tell their mom that, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore. I need a break. So what happens to a child or a young adult or a full adult whose parents are in Nigeria, and the child really has the urge to say, I need a break. So, and we're not from a culture where we go to look for therapy easily. Like some people are exposed enough to search for therapy when they need it and speak to a professional. But generally in Nigeria, most parents
won't pay for therapy.
They won't pay for therapy. They
What is wrong with you? Your mates are in Canada.
Do they have sweats? You know, the courts, we always, even I'm guilty of it sometimes. Do they have sweats? The people that are doing it. You know, but they fail to realize that different things affect different people in different ways. How my sister, who came to Canada as a teenager, coped with winter is not the way I will cope with winter. I went to just UK, and the winter in UK I was depressed. So I would probably have done worse off if I had come to Canada. So definitely, checking in on your children is not just, oh, how are you? Have you eaten? So what did you do? No. Those surface questions are good, but it's not enough. You need to be able to ask your children very deep questions. You need to know when your child, who is usually an extrovert, is suddenly becoming introverted. A child, when you see someone that is usually jolly, suddenly always sad. Even someone that is introverted, suddenly becoming extroverted. When you see sudden changes like that, you need to ask more questions. You need to let their guardian check on them. You need to know their friends. Another thing that we need to know is that even what's legal in Canada is not legal in Nigeria. For example, in Nigeria, marijuana is not legalized. Yeah, I went into Tokyo thinking I wanted to go and buy Asian food, and I saw that it was a marijuana cannabis store. You know, it is everywhere. You know, and when a child is pushed, or even a young adult, or even an adult that's frustrated enough, pushed and feels that they don't have the succor or the comfort, or even someone to speak to, they're going to start experimenting.
Coping mechanisms.
Looking for coping mechanisms. And it's usually one peer or the other. Oh, try this pill. And we see that there's a huge fentanyl problem. It's all over the news. So mental health, there's no one way fits all for it. Like she said, parents are able to afford it, travel all the way. You need to come and check on your child, follow your child to school, see the child's route to school. Because sometimes some parents will come and they'll see that, oh, this child has to enter like 6 buses or 5 buses, or take one train, enter another bus in winter. When you feel it yourself, you know that, I shouldn't have sent this child to do this, or this child needs a car. There are things that you don't really know that the young adult or the child is going through, that they really are. So I feel like more effort. It's not just prayer. Prayer is good, but it's not enough. Surface questions will not cut it. And it's not for one parent. Both parents have their part to play. Siblings too. Many people in Nigeria believe that once you are there, you are good. We were suffering in Nigeria. What do you want to say? Don't complain. And even that view makes it hard for people that are here that are going through things to share it or complain that we like go and tell her she's already stressed in Nigeria.
And she already thinks I'm doing good. So let me not dampen that. So, Mr. David, back to you. This is a lot to unpack. But as you come across or interact with these students, what is the worst case that you have seen?
These kids, I believe there are different categories of cases. So number one is maybe I'll say loneliness or homesick. Homesick. That's number one. They are homesick, they felt lonely, the pressure, the workload, the homework, the environment, the loneliness makes them homesick, and they cut out from they cut communications and they withdraw. Also, another case, like category 2, is they just want to exploit. They want to feel among, they want to do this, do that, which now sometimes leads them down to drug. And now they won't be able to go back from there. Category 3 is the stress of house rent, tuition fee, because in Canada we pay house rent monthly, unlike in Africa that you pay 1 year house rent and you're done. So here you pay monthly. So, and my sisters here has already said, people back in Africa have a different perspective of we that lives here. They believe, oh, you are here, you are fine, you're changing, you're making dollars that doubles the currency over in Africa. So you should be fine. So that pressure gets to these students because you have to pay house rent monthly. Peradventure, if you mistakenly buy a car, you have to pay insurance monthly. You have to pay your telephone bill monthly, and you have to now pay your tuition fee, your school fees too. And most of the time, once parents are able to bring them down, they are able to support them for first semester. They say, oh, take up your cross, pay your second semester. They just put that pressure on this kid, and it becomes a problem.
Now, let me ask you, is it true that when you have a student visa, you are automatically able to work? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, honestly, it is actually true that when you have a study permit visa to work overseas or to come study in Canada, you are allowed to work 20 hours per week during studies, 40 hours during holidays. But the truth of this matter is that to get a job is also a job. When these students arrive here, they feel so much very comfortable to be on their phones all day. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, that would while away all their time and not give them room to look for a job. So if you're not looking for that job in the right direction, you will say there's no job in Canada. But to get a job, it's a job.
To get a job, it's a job. I like that.
That's interesting quote.
It is. So, Bunmi, looking at these students generally, what advice? I know that we've talked about know your children, get a mentor, but now that the kids are here, what help can parents do? If you can't leave Nigeria, if you don't have the finances to travel, how else can you help? What advice would you give to parents? I know that it might be far-fetched. You are here, we're not in their shoes, but what do we say? What do we do?
Before I answer the question, I just want to quickly add to what David said regarding having to look for a job.
Yes.
So yes, at least now we confirm that they're able to work.
But looking for work is a job.
Looking for work itself, it's a job itself, right? Another thing that I also want to put out there for parents that might be listening is the way the work environment here is structured is different from Nigeria. And that's why sometimes the kids would struggle in holding on to a job. It's a different thing to find one. It's another to be able to keep the job. Because just as David said, an average youth want to be on their phone 24 hours in a day. In Canada, when you're at work, you're not allowed to bring out your phone except when you are on break. Your lunch break, your maybe the 15 minutes, tea break and all that. And they struggle with things like that. You cannot be at work and, be chatting and doing all those things. They struggle with things like that. Now, another thing is, do they have the experience to actually get that job? For an average child that have never worked before in their life, how do they put a resume together? What do they put on the resume? These are things that could also be a barrier in them getting that job that they're looking for. And for a parent back home, they don't get it because they don't know that the system is different. The child is telling you, oh, mom, dad, I've been looking for a job, but I can't find one. And you're wondering, why can't you find one? But they said there's a job in Canada.
And your mates are
working. So why is your case different? These are things that they might be trying to explain to you, but you would not be able to understand because you're not in that community or society. So please, very important, as we have all said, your child needs a mentor. And that takes me to the question you asked. What advice? We have community everywhere at least now I can tell you for a fact in Ontario, almost all the cities have a Nigerian association.
Yes.
If there's no Nigerian association, there's a Caribbean Black association. Get your child involved in one. If you're a Christian, try and make sure your child attends the church. If you're a Muslim, make sure your child belongs to that Muslim community where they are. These are resources that will be able to help them when they need help. They'll be able to rally around them when, something comes up and they need people to be there for them. But it's not just your child going once in every 2 months and expect the support. And that's where your job as a parent also comes in, just as Moyo have said. Follow up with your child. Ask questions. Can we do video call today? I want to see where you are. Oh, do a video tour of your school for me. Do a video tour of your room. I want to say hello to your friends. Let me see your friends. Let me see how your room looks like. If you're not able to come, look for people within your. I'm sure there's no how. Right now in Nigeria, almost everybody has a relative or a friend in Canada. Right? Your friend might not be in Ontario, but may have a friend in Ontario. It's an extra work, to be sincere, because we all have, things we're dealing with, work, the family and all that. But once in a while, reach out to people. Please, can you check on this child for me? Mm-hmm. Can you find out what's going on? I had a situation where an older friend called me from Nigeria and said, our cousins or friend's daughter said the house got burnt. And I'm like, where is this person? Unfortunately, it was in the city where I lived. So, I'm like, a house got burnt. He said, yes, the house is like raised down. I'm like, where is the area again? So if we're in Canada, if a house gets that bad, but everywhere, you would hear it everywhere. I said, okay, so what's the child asking for? She said the child wanted money. That they are going to have to go and stay in the hotel for about a week, so they needed so thousands of. And I told her, I said, hold on, don't send that money yet, because I can tell you for sure that house. I just Googled right now, and I can't see anything on the news. And I'm sure if anything like that happens, the community where we stay in Canada, it would be on the news for sure. So also make use of the internet. Mm-hmm. The internet is there for us. Sometimes it might just be a simple typing something on the internet to confirm if, the information that you just got from your child or your daughter or your son is true or not. But please, it's important that your child tries to get involved in the community wherever they find themselves. Sometimes it needs you to force them, then you would force them to do so.
I know that for many parents, they send their kids to Canada. They've not befriended their kids. And so coming here, it's hard because all we're saying is know your kid, be close to your kid. On getting here, there's alienation because they've never had that kind of close relationship. There was a young lady that went through abortion that almost died recently, and she was petrified for the doctors to even make a call to anyone who knew her parents. Mm-hmm. So they reached out to us in the community and were able to rally around her. But the long gist, or the short story to that long gist, is that she could not speak to her mom about what she was experiencing. And she said, well, they've never had a relationship. Well, how about your dad? Well, all he does is put money down and leave. So I think if there's anything we're going to take away from here is kids need to be prepared, Bunmi, you said, mentally, not just academically. They need a mentor to be, and to also, look into them from time to time. Don't just do the peripheral, hello, how are you, do you have money? Go further is what I hear you saying. And David, you're saying they need much more than your money. They need a mentor.
Yes.
Even if they are academically sound. Because all you do during the recruitment process is look at them on paper. So you know the students on paper.
Yes.
And you don't get to see them or know them until they arrive.
Yes.
And that is when you start seeing all of this exhibit the traits that they're exhibiting. Well, I don't know if any of you have final words that we can just, say to parents and even to the students here if they are listening. What do we say to them? Any final words, Moyo?
Yes, I'd like to add that, touching on what you said, it's very hard to find the balance. But as parents, you need to work towards finding the balance for each child, because you can have 3 children and their traits and characteristics their features are different. They're different people. So you need to know the child that you have and find a balance. Try not to be judgmental. Most of us Nigerians and Africans, we tend to be judgmental. We're a very religious country, so there's a lot of commandments and rules, and you need to know that the world is evolving. What was, okay then is not enough now. People, then you need more space now. And in as much as you're trying to not judge, you also have to know that you have to be a friend and still be disciplined. You need to know your child. You need to know how to direct them. You need to not. So if a child says, Mom, I don't have great results, or I've missed school, I'm going to get an extra semester. Screaming, that's not the way forward. Find a way to ask, what is the way forward? What can I do to help you? I hear that there's therapy. I'm not used to it. I never got therapy for any of my traumas. Do you need a therapist? What can I do to help you? What can I do to assist you? Do you want to come home? Because that's another thing that maybe because of the flight ticket and everything, sometimes they need to come home, rejuvenate, and come back. So that would just be what I was.
That's very, very important, really.
And just to also say, it's funny, but it's the truth. Not the son of who you are, like we usually say in Nigeria, is not enough.
It's not a thing.
It's not enough to send a child to Canada. Yes, it's good to remind them to know the son or daughter of who they are, but it's not enough to sustain them. Because the truth is, when they come in, they're going to contend with a lot of things at different times. There's their academic struggles, there's the societal one, there is, trying to feel that belonging within the community where you are. They will struggle with people telling them, I don't understand what you're saying. That's your accent, I don't get it.
Microaggressions.
They would sometimes doubt themselves. And to top it off, the weather is sometimes not so friendly. So they have all these things to deal with. So just sending your child off and telling them, remember the daughter or son of who you are. No. It's not enough. So just as Moyo have said, you have to be present at every time. Let your child realize, yes, remember the son or daughter of who you are. But in the event that anything happens, that you know that I will not be happy with, remember I'm your mother and I'll be here to support you. Don't worry about how I feel, but I need to know what's going on in your life. And when I know, I promise you, I know sometimes it's difficult from the angle of a parent as well. It's difficult to hear your child say, I failed. It's difficult to hear your child tell you, I didn't go to class for 2 weeks, right? I understand that. But the first reaction should not be that reaction of, we would normally react as parents from Nigeria or Africa. We know what we're talking about. Try as much as possible to let the child feel comfortable enough to tell you when they're struggling and when they're failing. That would be my advice. The last word.
Mr. David, last word.
So parents out there, students out there, I would say to the parents, when you're sending your child to Canada, outside classroom, there are a lot to learn. So when you're sending them in, have them learn the culture. The culture alone is is an education system on its own. While the education in classroom is another education system on its own. So when you're sending them over here, please have them prepare for both. Education by learning the culture is a learning system on its own, and education in the classroom. So probably I would say to parents, you should have your children learn the culture. Just be hammering on them. But when you're coming, this is a new community entirely. This is a new system entirely. Learn the system. Don't focus on classroom alone. Don't focus on your academic alone. Also learn the system. There's a lot. I've been here for a while now. I'm still learning the system.
Yeah.
So you have to learn the system. So you teach them how to learn in the classroom, learn the system outside the classroom. That would help a lot.
Wow. Well said. Thank you, everyone. And for me, I just believe that parents, when we started off with saying know your child, I believe that at the end of it, if you do not know your child well enough to send them abroad, Please don't. Would rather have children who are healthy, who are balanced, and doing well mentally, physically, academically, and who are safe than children who are abroadians, to use that slang. What would it mean to have your kids in Canada and then have them returned either in a coffin or have you called to visit them in a mental health institution? Children are dealing with a lot here. Adults are dealing with a lot here. But it's worse off when kids are here all by themselves. They have no one to turn to. And then to hear a parent tell them, your mates are doing well. Why are you not doing well? That's the ultimate judgment they need to shut down from ever speaking to you, because they're going to write you off as a parent who does not understand. And that is not what you want. Take time to befriend your kids. Take time to know them. If you are too busy in Nigeria, then you're too busy to be a parent. There's no excuse. But it is time to take care of yourself and take care of your children. So until next time, God bless you. Catch you later.